Sequestration, what Washington calls looming automatic spending cuts that could go into place next week.
And it will come as no surprise that Republicans and Democrats disagree on what those cuts would mean, how they would impact government, and even if they will take place. 24 News 8 political reporter Rick Albin has been looking into these potential cuts. He's joining us now with the view of our lawmakers.
Washington's next crisis is almost upon us. It'll happen next week. It's important to note that we don't know if these cuts are going to go into place. There's always a chance Congress could once again kick the can down the road. They've gotten good at that. But if those cuts, about 8% or so, do go into effect, there are some big differences in opinion as to what the impact would be. Almost everyone agrees it would have an impact on the economy, but there are those who say not making those cuts could have a negative impact as well. Others opposed to the cuts warn of deep cuts and job losses, while the Republicans, who dominate the West Michigan congressional delegation, don't see it that way at all. Government, they say, has to take a business approach.
When they are, up against a real tough economic time, they look to make savings. They don't hire new people that were coming on. They ask people to maybe take a little time off. We've got to do the same thing. We got to get this country back on track again. Most people think it is a spending problem. And remember, the president got his revenue. He got $600 billion in more revenue. We now have to focus on the spending.
Is this going to be as catastrophic as the White House is portraying it? And just to put it in perspective, we are going to be, with this automatic across the board cutting somewhere around 7 or 8% of our overspending, not our total spending, our overspending. So that means the $1 trillion plus that we are going to put on the credit card, basically, we're trimming that back by $80 to $85 billion. There's a lot of people that go, you know what, I've had to do that in my own personal life, or at work we've had to do that, and they don't understand why the government can't or shouldn't do that exact same thing.
The real question is, will these cuts go into place? Will there be a big impact, or can those costs be spread across a broad enough area to minimize that impact? Or will there be some other plan altogether? One thing for sure is Washington has its latest crisis queued up and ready for lots of red-hot rhetoric when Congress returns next week.
We'll definitely be keeping an eye on all that.
I was going to say, we'll be covering it. Rick, thank you very much.